because I'm looking for experts to help us, and I don't know anything about hair and makeup, but you do. You know everything about hair and makeup.
And skin.
And you're working
And
on like specifically what I found interesting is you're really focused in on the women in perimenopause.
that's right. Yes. So I'm a licensed esthetician, a professional makeup artist. I have been for 22 years. And the majority of that time, I have specifically worked with women in midlife, transitioning from, through their 30s into their 40s and beyond. And I have discovered about 118 different ways that the shifts of hormones, perimenopause and menopause, can affect our skin, our hair, our appearance. And that's a lot of symptoms that I've been working with over the years. And so a few years ago, I decided to really hone in on perimenopause skincare and beauty and help the women who are in this phase of life. I'm in this phase of life, just wondering what the heck is going on? What am I in for? And what do I do about it? So it's been really a wonderful thing to be able to dive into a very uh, challenging topic for a lot of women and make it so much easier to understand what to do about it all.
Yeah, and I do think that I think we talked about this when we very first met, was, you know, how our skin looks and how our skin changes. It really does impact how we feel about ourselves. And some women might feel, oh, well, it shouldn't be such a big deal, or what difference does it make? It's not, it's very superficial. But I don't really feel that way. I mean, I don't think we should worry about it 24 hours a day about how we look, but it does impact how you feel about yourself if you look in the mirror and you say, I've heard women say, I don't recognize myself.
I hear it all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. And so my philosophy is that we focus on vitality over vanity. And when we're focused on our well-being, one of my mottos is healthy skin starts within, and I truly do believe that it does. When we focus on our well-being and how we're doing, like how we are actually doing, it shows. And I work with so many women who are very much in the public eye, and their appearance is their livelihood. And and even they sometimes feel bad, like I feel like I'm being vain.
Mm.
And then we have everyday women who they're just so busy and they're wondering like, should I be concerned about, this or what's going on? And the toll it takes on so many people's self-esteem and their confidence, whether it is they're very much in the public eye and they're on screens and on stages, or if it's just in their own lives where they don't necessarily make eye contact as easily, or they go to bed with a little bit of makeup on because they don't want their partner to see, or they don't show up to events as often as they would because it's harder to show up. Or I quite often hear women say, they walk past the bathroom mirror most mornings and they're like, who's this what happened here? And it can be a little bit jolting. um it doesn't mean we have to do anything about it. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. But very, very many women, most of the women that I meet behind closed doors when we're really real about this, um, it does shake things up. And it's not necessarily that they're trying to be 20 anymore. It's just that the identity that they have about themselves no longer matches what they're seeing.
Hmm.
And they're trying to figure out, what that means for them now, what that means for their future, what that means for their career, how they show up in the world. And so many of the symptoms that come about when it comes to our appearance with, our skin and our hair with the hormone changes, it's not that it just looks different, it feels different. The skin can get very tight and dry and uncomfortable. We can get rashes and irritation and be sensitive. So it's not necessarily about, are we focusing on just the beauty and the vanity aspect of it? It's like, are we focusing on setting our senior self, our future self up for success, keeping our skin healthy, so it can be that barrier that we need it to be? And when we do that, it tends to look a bit more youthful, a little bit longer, and people just they tend to feel a little bit better about that.
Hmm.
Every now and then I meet somebody who says that they're really loving seeing the new wrinkles and the new gray hairs and all of this, and it's so fun for them, but that is very rare.
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't think that any of us, I mean, we've had enough we've had enough to feel bad about, right? So if you're one of the ladies that, is embracing the changes and embracing the gray, like I'm kind of highlighting my gray with low lights,
Mhm.
instead of covering, I'm making them pop.
And
And
it's pretty.
yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty. But I feel totally comfortable doing that, right?
Yeah.
Someone else may really not want to do that, and no one should feel. I mean, on top of everything else you're going through, bad about the choices that they're making as far as what they're using. And I like what you're doing because when I first started looking around about skincare, it was like, wow, it's another maze and it's very confusing. And I'm someone who's somewhat not naturally inclined towards using a lot of products. So I really, when I had like a reaction to using eyeshadow, I was like, what the heck is going on? Because that has never happened before. And so I'm very fortunate and blessed to have met you. And you offered to answer some questions that we had in my group that I can't answer because I'm not so much about the skin and that kind of, that's just sort of not my realm of expertise. So we found someone who is. Do you want to take a look at the first question and see? Because I sent them over to you. I'm going to put them in. This is going to end up in my book, so I'm going to give you credit for helping me with finishing this chapter because I got stuck on a few of these questions.
I love it, and I'm so excited. And I could legitimately talk about each one of these all day long. So please interrupt me if you feel it's too much. I was so excited when I saw these questions. I was like, oh, these are so good. So I'm going to read them here. The first one is I've tried several types of collagen, peptides, marine, and collagen with added protein, and I've liked them all. My hair, nails, and skin look great, but I'm wondering what form and type of collagen is considered the most effective. Powder, tablets, or liquid? Bovine or marine? Peptides or protein? Great question. So I'm first going to say I am not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian. I am a licensed esthetician, a professional makeup artist, and I'm also a cosmetic product developer. So since 2012, I have developed my own cosmetics, skincare, makeup, body care. I've also helped other beauty brands, hair care, and wellness brands with supplements. And so I'm a big old nerd. Ingredient research is my my one of my favorite things, and I have so much to say about collagen. One of the things about me is I like to first assess what are our values? What do we value? So some people, they want no part of collagen because of where it originates. Not a lot of people understand where it originates. Other people do not care. So most of the collagen that we see on the market is going to come from bovine or cow, porcine or pork, chicken or marine, which is fish. And that's distilled down um, parts like cartilage, skin, hoofs, bone, things like that. And so I like people to be aware of what are we dealing with first? Is that okay with you? If it is, okay, great. Then let's move on to the next. Um, there are many different types of collagen, about 28 different types of collagen. It's usually type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we in the wellness and beauty space look at. The first three are the ones that seem to be targeted more towards hair, skin, nails, beauty, supplementation, things like that. Um, type 1 is usually bovine source, so cow source of collagen. Marine as well is typically type 1. Cow, type 2 would be chicken, and type 3 would be bovine. So if somebody's wanting a well-rounded collagen supplement, they would be looking at a blend of those. Um, with their personal value system doesn't align with that, then they need to be aware that looking on the back of a label is going to be really important. Something that I like to ask people is, what else are you doing? Do we need to remove anything before you add? So a lot of people will jump to, I want to take a collagen supplement to get my collagen back. And they will not necessarily have thought about what's going on in their lifestyle that could be diminishing their collagen. So, taking a collagen supplement could be like if we imagine a bathtub and you turn on the faucet. But what are you doing in your own life? What are you consuming, or what's your lifestyle like that could be just pulling the drain, right? So you don't want to be consuming something that could just be going to waste. So before somebody adds, I like to ask, Are you using sunscreen? Because UV radiation can degrade our collagen. Smoking, drinking, consuming too much sugar, even cooking our food a certain way. So grilling, broiling, high heat cooking can create something called AGEs, advanced glycogen end products, which degrade our collagen and make it stiffer, stiffen and harden. So it's not that we don't want to ever have sugar or ever barbecue or anything like that, but knowing that certain things that are taking place in our life could be breaking down our own collagen. And if we're consuming, doesn't matter what kind we're consuming, it may not be doing the job that we want it to because of all of those things. So correcting some of the lifestyle factors could help anything work better. Um, if somebody is wanting a collagen supplement, they're probably going to want something called hydrolyzed collagen. Hydrolyzed is basically a how it's processed. It's
Hmm.
broken down into teeny tiny little bits.
Right.
And collagen in general is really just it's a it's a protein. It's amino acids. And amino acids and proteins can be found in animal sources, plant-based sources. And ultimately, how we get these amino acids into our system is such an individualized choice. Um, in about 2002, when I was first learning about skin and collagen and strengthening it, I was learning that, a diet high in vitamin C and the amino acids like protein, or the amino acids, proline, lysine, and vitamin C combined together can really boost collagen. And it's only been in more recent years that the animal-based collagen supplements that have come out. And while there's a lot of research saying it's helpful for our skin and our hair, and some people do find that it does help them, there's the studies, there's not a lot, and they're smaller groups, and then there's other research that says it doesn't really do that much. So it is more of a trial and error. It is a try it and see if it helps you. Whether it is a powder, sometimes powders you can digest a little bit easier, or liquids you can digest a little bit easier. It's really is a try it and see. And I'm on the fence about, and I've investigated collagen a lot, and I've even tried some, and I've contemplating adding it to my self-care lineup of things. And I want to see more data. And I'm wondering if the collagen that people are consuming is adding more protein to their diet, and it's the added protein that's helping strengthen their hair, or is it the actual collagen? Is it the amino acids, or is it the actual um, collagen one, two, three from the animal products? I don't see enough independent studies that are not like funded by companies who have something to gain, that are large enough studies that say this is absolutely definitive, going to change your life
Yeah.
and your skin and your hair. Um, but if one wants to try it, a blend of something they actually feel comfortable consuming that doesn't upset their tummy, that they can get in consistently, maybe adding the right amount of protein or amino acids into the mix to help. Um, but it could just be they need more protein, and it could just be they need more nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids. So before adding, it's particularly a really expensive collagen supplement, I like to say, are the lifestyle factors diminishing your collagen production? Are you getting enough vitamin C, enough other nutrients? Um, are you getting enough protein to support yourself? And to just think through, sometimes when we consume something, it doesn't mean it goes straight to the skin. Same with like topical collagen. Putting topical collagen doesn't build our own collagen. We want the building blocks to regenerate, and those building blocks can come from amino acids and some vitamin C. It could potentially come from additional protein. It could potentially come from collagen supplements. Um, Do I have a 100% solid definitive answer? I don't, but those are the thoughts that I have in the back of my head when researching it for my clients and for myself and what's actually taking place. I do feel like more studies need to happen. But if somebody wants it, just make sure that it's a blend to get the most out of it and one that isn't going to upset your tummy because a lot of people do report that from my experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've tried several different kinds now, and I had a little bit of help from some and no help from others, and it really didn't seem to depend on the amount of that you paid for it, right? One
Right.
of the first ones I was on was very expensive, and I think it did help me a bit, but I was mostly on it for like brittle nails,
Yeah.
and I did find one that is helpful for me, but I understand exactly what you're saying because I do that a lot in yoga therapy where when I'm working with someone, if you have that lifestyle stuff kind of dialed in, not that you're perfect at it, not that you never eat the whatever thing that you like to have, you still have some of that in your life, and that's okay, but that you really have paid attention and looked at making sure that you're, like the easy one, drinking enough water
Yeah.
and having some protein every time you eat so you don't have big blood sugar spikes. And those things really do, I feel like, set that fertile ground so that then when you plant something in, like a supplement, it has a better chance of actually working.
Absolutely.
And it does, I feel like, take some trial and error to find the one that works for you. So just be warned if you are going to do trying collagen, you might have to try a few before you find something, and there is no guarantee that it will work because it does seem to be hit or miss as to whether it
It
works.
does.
Yeah, and I don't know why that is, and we'll see if they ever look into that any further. But that was very thorough and a great answer. Okay, what's next?
What's next? So I do want to say one more thing.
Okay.
I noticed that some blends also have vitamins in them. And
Mm-hmm.
so it could be somebody's depleted in certain nutrients and they're getting that as well. So I am researching this continually. I have been for years and I will keep it up. So I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Second question is, I've been struggling with not liking how I look lately. My face, my hair, just overall. I've been overweight for years, but I usually still liked my face and hair when I looked in the mirror. For the past few months, though, I can't stand what I see. I don't even want to update my profile photo because I only like the one from 6 years ago. Has anyone else gone through something similar? And have you noticed changes in your hair or nails as well? What a question. And the answer is yes. From my experience, most of the women that I have worked with over the last 2 decades feel this way at some point. And some are open about it a little bit, and some will come see me and they are just a sobbing mess.
Yeah.
And I get that. And I get it because it is one thing to know yourself and to love yourself and to appreciate everything about yourself and to have it changed like that. And I think that's the one of the hardest parts for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes at different times for all of us, but almost every woman in the 40s and definitely the early to mid 50s will say to me, like, I don't even recognize myself anymore. And there's a big mental component that goes around with that. How you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror, how you feel about yourself when you interact with the world, how other people view you, how we perceive how other people view us. It's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And and I have experienced this. Every single one of my friends and clients have experienced this, and it's to different degrees, and it is hard. And I think it is one of the um, quietest symptoms, one of the most challenging things because our perception of ourself permeates absolutely every single thing we do. And if we are not feeling good about ourselves, we don't want to show up. We don't want to share our gifts. We don't want to shine our light. We don't want to be visible. We don't want to get out there into the world and do what we're meant to do um, as much or as comfortably because we just feel different about ourselves. And so I'm a big, huge advocate for our entire lives, but specifically in this phase of life, perimenopause and menopause. I'm not there yet, but once I am, I see, having worked with so many women in this phase of life, that the value and the importance of knowing who you are, knowing what you're about, being really clear on the good stuff about you, and every single day looking for the good in yourself, in your world, in your life, because it can be hard enough to have the hormonal ups and downs. And it's exceptionally hard when you have the hormonal ups and downs coupled with the who am I? What is this? What is going?
Yeah, yeah.
And the emotional toll that that takes. And so
Yeah, I
many
just want
women
to
and
interrupt and say I also feel like we feel ashamed because the message is you should love yourself. You should love yourself exactly as you are. And you know, you can't sometimes when you don't recognize yourself, you don't automatically go, it's okay that I've changed, you know, and I love myself no matter what. And it's normal to have that time. There's needs to be some kind of a transition there where part of loving ourselves is just going, right now I don't love the way that I look, and that's normal and it happens and it's part of the transition, and eventually you come around to looking a little bit differently as you go, and that's totally fine. I think most women, like you said, are going to have at least some of that. Where I went through a phase where I was like, maybe I'm just going to wear a scarf all the time because look really young, but I don't love the stuff that's happening here. So I'm looking forward to your conference part when you're going to show us some exercises to help our troubled skin areas. That's going to be so exciting and great for us. Because, you know, wearing a scarf every day was like, after a couple weeks, I was like, what am I doing? This is
well, plus we're too hot. Plus we're too hot and sweaty.
exactly right. I have to wear layers all the time. Oh my goodness. So, anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I feel like it's very important to get real with ourselves, and if I'm a huge fan of therapy, I'm a huge fan of having somebody to talk to, close and trusted friends. So many people when they come to me to help them with their skin, we talk about these things in the reality of it, and it is real, and we can love ourselves so much and still be getting used to a new version of ourselves. Um, and
and that
it's
part's
it,
bumpy.
it is
Like,
bumpy.
accept the bumps. It's fine.
It is bumpy, yeah. And we're all going to be okay. And we don't have to do anything about this, but we do have to do something about our mindset about the aging process, because we take these thoughts with us forever. And when we get down on ourselves because something is changing in a way that we may not like, it really can limit us in our life and the connections that we make and how we show up. Um, and we don't want that for ourselves.
No, we don't want that for ourselves. And I just wanted to say one other thing. I was with my family in Ontario and I was talking about stuff. And, you know, I do this kind of thing all the time where I'm just meeting with people and talking with women. I love it. It's amazing. And I said something like, you know, when I used to be an attractive woman, and yeah, my niece's partner looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like, you, because for me, I'm noticing all of the details that of things as they've changed.
Yeah.
But I mean, certainly not everybody in my world is noticing that, and you can be maturing and still be an attractive woman. It was just it struck me at that moment, like how I'm showing up or how I'm perceived in the world can be so different than how I'm feeling, because you know I feel a little bit like Mrs. Claus sometimes. And
Oh my gosh.
not that I'm
Okay.
giving her a bad rap, but that's kind of my joke, right? We go from being a beautiful young woman, and then suddenly one day we're Mrs. Claus. And
And really the mindset shift around, why as a society do we feel that we elevate youth and diminish maturity? And I mean, I'm saying this as somebody who is working through the mindset stuff around it as well. And every woman that I know is to some extent. And um, why as a society do we value that, and then why do we latch onto that, and why do we feel less than because we don't look like we used to? And whether we speak it or not, there are plenty of people who never say a word about it, but they feel it.
mm-hmm.
And they're not as let up in their life because of it. And it is important to know you're not alone. It is important to know that, maybe it's time we all as a society of women, find another uh way to view this. And how are we going to, it's a good question to ask ourselves, how are we going to get our mindset right about I can be beautiful from here on out, from now and forever, no matter what comes. And I know it's easier said than done, and most women don't feel that is the case for them. And I'm continually looking for answers and ways to help support myself and the women in my life with that, because it's really hard when you kind of are just like, well, this is a I guess this is it, and this
Yeah.
is who I am now, but it's with a vibe of not good enough anymore. And I sure do hope we can come together and find a way to work through that, because we have so much we have so much life to live, and we want to
Hmm.
do it feeling our best. And if we're kind of down on ourselves, it's going to be tricky. So I'm looking forward to the conference as well. And if anybody else has ideas on how we can do this together, I'm all for it. I'm all ears.
Yeah, and I think that's partially what we're doing in the group, just in general, of sharing what we're living through and what's going on and asking questions. And there's plenty of people that have been in the group for a long time, and I watch them go from being like completely kerfuffled about everything to over the course of a few years, maybe months, depending on the person, they turn around and then they're the one giving the little tidbit to the newcomer about, we are all beautiful in our own way, and there are a lot of things that we can do, which is one of the things I want to empower women to feel, beautiful, that they have that choice to focus on what they want to focus on, and how they look and how they feel. It is really interconnected, and there's nothing wrong with working on that in that way. It's the world's a better place when we lift each other up, is what
It is.
what we're trying to do.
It
Okay,
is. And
so
when we
what's
feel
the
good
next
about our,
question?
when we feel good about ourselves, we want to,
Yeah,
be out there connecting.
yeah.
Well, this is a great question. So I get a lot of dark facial hair, chin stubble, mustache, etc. And because my skin is sensitive, I prefer shaving over waxing. Is it normal to feel like I need to shave twice a day? My scalp hair grows very slowly, but my facial hair seems to grow like crazy. Has anyone else experienced this? Yes, 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 yes. So, again, every single one of these questions, my first thought is you are not alone. Whoever is thinking this, you're not alone. So, early in my career, in the early 2000s, I worked in medical clinics doing laser treatments, and head to toe. And so many women with the mustaches and the hairs here, and the one when they would have like tweezers in their car, because you get in that car and the sunlight just glistens just so, and it feels like it can grow 2 inches overnight. And when the hormones start shifting, it can be incredibly frustrating, because hairs can start sprouting, and it has a lot to do with the balance of the estrogen and the progesterone and the testosterone and DHEA and all these different things, and how they shift within us can trigger hair loss and hair growth. We're going to talk about that in a second, but you're not alone. And as our hormones change, our skin often gets more sensitive. So somebody who's starting with a baseline of sensitive skin that is then becoming more sensitive in perimenopause or menopause, it can feel doubly frustrating, because now they're dealing with hairs and rashy, bumpies, razor burn, and whatnot. So we have options. We have a lot of options. And yes, if you're wanting it completely smooth, some women, it grows so fast that it does seem like you have to, if you choose to get rid of it every day or twice a day, or, it's right there. So a warm compress on the area can help soften the skin and soften the hair and the hair follicle to make it removing it a little bit easier, not scalding hot, but that can help. A lot of women will tweeze, but when our eyesight starts to shift, it can be tricky to see them. I do not, being somebody who spent many years doing a lot of laser procedures, I do not For most people, recommend lasering their face because it can trigger hyperpigmentation or brown spots on the skin.
Mm.
But if somebody's wanting a more long-lasting approach, they can get electrolysis, which is old school removing of the hairs. It can be a little irritation there, and it can last a really, it can take a while to get through that. And as our hormones shift, you can sprout more, but it is a little more long-lasting eradication of the hair at the root. And then when it comes to shaving, I would ask, what are you using? What are you putting on your skin before and after? That could be where some of the irritation comes. Um, but I would say for probably the last at least 15 years, almost every single person who's ever gotten a skin treatment from me, and I've performed close to 17,000 skincare treatments, gets with their treatment, we do something called epidermal leveling or dermaplaning, which is a nice way to say, like, I shave their face. I use a surgical scalpel and I remove all the peach fuzz and dead skin with it. But it is a very, very, very common thing, especially with models, especially with people who are on film or on camera. Really common. So for somebody who may be wondering, like, is it weird for me to shave
Yeah.
my face? It's
No.
not. It's just not talked about.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a great such great thorough answers. I'm just loving this. And was there more? I think there was a couple more, right?
Oh yes, we did have a few more. Okay, so let's see here. I is dealing with itchy skin another part of menopause symptoms. Mine mostly shows up on my arms and legs after showering. I've switched to body washes for sensitive skin, but the itching can last a couple of hours. I find I skip the shower sometimes just to avoid the itching, and it's so uncomfortable. What helps? Super common for multiple reasons. So, when the hormones change, itchy skin and itchy ears and just itchy can occur. Not for everyone, but it can. Because of the hormones, it can be some other sort of health related issue. Some people have something called mast cell activation syndrome. There's a lot of health issues that can cause itchiness, autoimmune issues that can sometimes show up in midlife or later that can cause itchiness. So there can be a few factors going on here. Um, but it is a very common menopause symptom. It's a common symptom for anyone. And when the topic is revolving around the shower, I'm like, I have a light bulb. I'm like, aha, okay, I think I know what's going on. It could be that you're using water that's too hot. So with somebody who has water that's too hot, that can cause extreme itchiness and scaliness after the fact. So usually I recommend warm to, not scalding hot water, but warm water helps prevent that. In some areas, the water can be extremely hard. I live in an area with extremely hard water, and a lot of people here get very dry skin unless they have a shower filter. So that can be a factor that can help. Um, I personally use body products that don't, even if it's for sensitive skin, I make sure there's no dye because dye can create itching, no fragrance because
Mm-hmm.
fragrance can create itching. And then there's certain foaming agents, even in certain sensitive products. So I would need to know what the ingredients this person is using, but certain foaming agents that can cause some itching in some people. So we would want to like eliminate just any potential irritants whatsoever, and then potentially add an oil. So I like to use in the shower while I'm damp. I have a body oil that I'll put on. I'm not a particularly dry person, but my skin is drying out as I'm getting older. I'm noticing this shift. So you can put a body oil on over the top of wet skin and it seals it in to help that chapping, itchy, scaly sensation, and that can help a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I am also, we also have very hard water here in Calgary, and my skin is dry. I've switched to, I'm using baby oil again, unscented baby oil,
Okay.
because it's really, whatever, seems to work really well for me, and I like it a lot. And I also started using something called rosehip oil. It was
Yes.
recommended to me, and that one has been really, really lovely as well.
Yeah.
Um, but I hadn't really thought about. A shower filter for
Yeah.
the, that's a really good one because maybe we could get some of that going because I just came back from Ontario and within 3 days my troubled dry spots were gone.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, it could be the water. It could be the water. It could be the climate, humidity, dryness. There's a lot of different factors for
yeah,
sure. So I like to play detective whenever somebody has a mystery issue. My personal opinion, if you were asking me for
I
it,
am
would
asking you.
be rose hip over baby oil. Baby oil is really commonly used, but some people find that even though it gives you a nice slip and glide initially, some people find that anything that's petroleum based on the skin, it creates a rebound dryness. So it'll feel silky, slippery, smooth initially, but
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily replenish moisture. It creates an occlusive barrier so you're not seeping out moisture. But the rosehip oil is a little bit more restorative, reparative. It actually can help minimally stimulate collagen. So you're getting more oomph out of that. I know it costs more than baby oil, but it does actually, it's really helpful for the skin. So I would prefer that if it were
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely getting more of that because I really like it. All right, what do we got next?
Okay, so then the next question would be, I've noticed my skin has changed a lot over the past year and is starting to look a bit creepy. Does anyone have tips or strategies for slowing this down or improving it? This is one of the number one concerns of women in perimenopause and menopause. We So crepey would be that almost like tissue paper look to the skin, crinkling, thinning out. It can be like texture here, around the eyes. A lot of the hands can get it as well. Super common. Big, big factor there is loss of collagen. So in our 20s, we start to lose about 1% of our collagen per year. And it's thought that as we enter perimenopause, that speeds up and we can lose upwards of around an additional 30% within the 5 years after menopause.
Wow.
So we're losing collagen, and collagen is the support structure of our skin that keeps it thick and strong and resilient. We can do a lot to help support our collagen and keep that from happening, but to just have that awareness that it's normal because as your hormones shift and we deplete our collagen, that's what's happening. So keeping collagen boosting in mind, using a rosehip oil. I love certain treatments and different peptides and ingredients to help with that. Um, but if we were gonna dial it back to the most basic thing that somebody could do, would be looking at, is there anything they're using that's dehydrating their skin? So any particular ingredients topically that could be dehydrating their skin. Um, and then if not, making sure that we're replenishing the water component of the skin. So like a water-based serum, something with hyaluronic acid or glycerin to put the water type component of the skin, replenish that, and then top it with an oil. So we have water and oil, and we know those are very different things, and the skin needs both. So coming in just with an oil can be helpful for the sensation, but it's not replenishing that moisture component. So my favorite thing, if we're talking basics here for crepey skin, is a water-based serum with hyaluronic acid or glycerin or both. I love peptides. Put that on first. And put it on, even you can put it on damp skin, whether it's a mist that you use or if it's water that's potentially filtered if you have really bad water, and then top it with an oil or a balm to lock in and seal that moisture in. It can help the look of it a bit more while we figure out the hormones and what's causing such an accelerated decline in collagen. That can help. I have a lot of clients who before they go to do like a live or a video or whatnot, or they have a special appearance, they'll take a balm and they'll slather their neck right here and then dab a little bit of around their eyes, and it helps just kind of like seal things a bit so it doesn't look so crinkly. That's that's my take on that.
Hmm. That all sounds great.
The next question, you ready for the next
Yeah.
question? Okay, so I recently shaved the fine peach fuzz on my face, and now I can feel the stubble when I run my hand over it. It's not coarse hair, but it feels different than before. I didn't expect this, and I'm a bit worried. Has anyone else tried this, and what's the regrowth phase like? Super common. So, as I mentioned, I do a ton of treatments where we're essentially shaving the peach fuzz or the stubble. It's very, very common. Celebrities, people on TV, personalities, models, a lot of them are removing the hair. The reason that it feels so prickly and stubbly, and some people will say, "Oh my gosh, what did I do? Did I ruin myself for good?" The answer is no. It's very normal. So if you have a hair that just naturally grew out of the skin, it kind of grows out a little bit like fine and pointed at the tip. And it's been exposed to the sun, so it's likely been a little bit lightened and bleached out, whereas what's underneath here is, your natural hair color. And when you cut it off at the surface, whether it's, shaving it professional with a professional or yourself, you get a blunt edge. And so now it's just the blunt edge is just sticking as it comes out, it's going to stick out. And so it's not this fine little tip anymore, it's a blunt edge, and you feel that. But as it grows out, it softens up a bit. So it's not that somebody made themselves stubbly or ruined what they have going on, which is a really, really common concern. It's just that you're feeling a blunt edge come out of the surface of the skin, whereas before you had like a fine, lighter point to the tip of the hair. But it'll normalize. And you can either keep doing it and just keep it smooth, or um, if you don't like it, you don't have to. You don't have to do that. There are other options like the electrolysis or tweezing that can help with that stubbly sensation.
Yeah, and I can see someone who did that going like, "Oh no, is it going to grow in like
Yeah.
thicker and thicker and thicker and be harder and harder?" And that's not the case.
No, it's not the case because what governs the hair growth is the hormones. And so this is where it gets tricky, right? Some of us never get a single hair that sprouts outside of just the very fine peach fuzzy type hairs. It's wonderful. Some early in life with PCOS or PMOS had hormone issues that triggered a ton of hair growth,
Mm-hmm.
sideburns, hair here, extra body hair. And so they the the hormones is what caused that. And the reason that it starts to pop up later in midlife is the hormones are causing it. So removing the hair at the surface has nothing to do with how it's growing underneath. It's not going to stimulate more growth. It's just if more hairs are coming, more hairs are coming. And that's usually a hormonal factor. I see it a lot in the women who I work with who are testing out whether it's HRT or bioidentical hormone replacement or pellets. Anytime they shift their own hormones,
Mm-hmm.
there can be a surge of hair growth, face and body. And we joke about the places that it shows up. We're just like, well, that wasn't expected. But it's something that women need to know about that if we're choosing to balance our hormones out, which we absolutely have the right to choose either way, that anytime you start particularly tweaking the testosterone, you can get a surge of hair growth. And that can show up on the face, it can show up on the body. And as that occurs as well, something to keep in mind is the hairs grow out of the same place that our oil glands are. And as it's growing, it can create irritation, inflammation, and trigger blemishes too. So it's not uncommon. It's just kind of part of the process of the hormones either doing what they're going to do on their own or tweaking them as we balance them out.
So that's good to know though, because then if you did shave and you thought, "Oh no, it's all going to grow in and be forever and it's terrible," and it's
No,
probably not the case. It's just that blunt edge that you're feeling
it's the blunt
as it comes
edge.
out. Yeah. And
Yep.
what's next?
Okay. I've been dealing with very dry eyes, skin, and hair. My eyes feel like sandpaper when I wake up, and even my lips are dry and burning. I've tried eye drops and masks, but it's not helping much. Has anyone else experienced this and what helped? Absolutely. Like I said, every single one of these questions, yes, plenty of people experience
Yeah.
this. Um, it's one of those things you, especially with the eyes, talk to your eye doctor. Mine suggests warm compresses. I always keep these little like eye droppy things with me. They're like artificial tears. They can help really well. It can be really frustrating for the eyes because it can impact our vision, and it does. It feels uncomfortable, particularly for people who live in dry climates or who are on screens a lot. I know there's some exercises where you can like blink or, shift your gaze from close to far, and things like that are supposed to help, taking little eye breaks from your screen midday. But it is common. It's common because again, the hormones, they govern a lot of our oil production, our moisture production everywhere, head to toe, and everything can dry out. The thing that we like to be detective with too is it perimenopause, is it menopause, or is it something else? So one of the reasons that um, people can experience dry hair, dry skin, dry eyes, dryness is nutrient deficiencies. If we're depleted, nutrient wise, or even just our own hydration wise, it can show up in those areas. And not just water moisture, but also essential fatty acids. Some people are so concerned about losing the minnow belly and oh, my body is changing. And so they go on a really restrictive diet, not knowing that they're depleting themselves of good omega-3s and good essential fatty acids, and being depleted in that can also make the hair look and feel really brittle and dry, and can make the skin look and feel really brittle and dry. And so those are factors too. And again, like I mentioned, sometimes in midlife, certain autoimmune conditions pop up, lupus, Sjogren's, different things like that. These can, thyroid issues, these can contribute to dryness of the hair, of the skin. And so it's like we started with, you said, like we deal with enough, right? Like we're thinking through so much, and we're investigating our bodies so much, and we have the potential for so much, to be taking place with us. But I think it's so key. We use these symptoms as a barometer or a gauge. I'm really dry. My hair's falling out. I'm really brittle. What's happening? It could be hormones, but it could be you need more nutrients. It could be you need to have your doctor run some labs. It could be something completely different, and it could be all of it combined at the same time. But we look at these things as normal and signs and symptoms that it's time to start paying attention to what's going on inside, to make sure that we're setting our future self up for success. Because if we just think, oh, it's just menopause is coming, so my skin and my hair is getting really dry. But what if we missed a thyroid condition that very well could have been treated? Or what if we missed a potential autoimmune issue that needed some help? Um, Particularly when it comes to the eye area. So it's good to look at ourselves as the whole picture, not just what cream do I need to buy, what supplement do I need to take, but what's really going on inside, all over. And usually we can get to the root of it. And usually we can find the right, whether it's an oil that we use or a serum that we use, can help in the meantime with some of the symptoms, but it doesn't mean that we don't look deeper at what's actually taking place.
Yeah, and I always say, like, don't skip like with the eye changes, for example. If it's new or worsening, don't skip going. Even if you just went, I had one friend, I think it was only 3 months, and she was like, my glasses, my brand new glasses, they're not working. And I was like, well, you've got to go back and check them, because sure enough, her prescription needed to be changed that quickly. And things did settle down on the other side, in the postmenopause side. But during the transition, if she had just skipped that part, that's potentially, well, it's harder on the eyes. It's more dangerous if she's driving around. Or if there was something autoimmune going on, they can catch things by what's going on in your eyes. So don't ever skip that. And the other thing, I really feel a lot of people have distrust in doctors in general, is this idea that they don't know what they're doing. And maybe it's not great for us in perimenopause, to be perfectly honest. There is definitely a gap in the knowledge. However, if you actually did have a thyroid problem, or something like Hashimoto's, or one of the other autoimmune things that can cause things like hair loss, you want to know for sure that that's what it is, because that's going to inform what you do next as far as your treatment goes. If you just jump on the hormone wagon and start taking in a bunch of supplemental hormones, it may or may not work if you haven't addressed that core issue, and potentially could put you off. The longer you leave something, the harder it is to treat. So the sooner you get in and see the doctor, that's your first step. So never skip that. That's the important part of that. Okay, what's next? Are we getting closer to the end?
We are. I think we just have one more question left,
Wow.
and I want to say too, what you just mentioned, it's prevention is always easier, cheaper, faster, better than correction, right? And so if we can be empowered on our own and know what potentially could be going on, we can go to our doctor and we can say, "Hey, I'm feeling this. Could it be this, 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 and this?" Even if that distrust is there, we have so much power to learn about things and to understand, what's going on. I love to help inform people is like, well, your hair changing could be 10 different things.
Yeah,
And your skin changing could be other things, and just being proactive it just sets us up for success no matter what.
agreed.
Um, I think I skipped one, so I'm gonna go back and look here because there was another one that I feel like I might have skipped about hair, but let's see. Not sure if this is menopause related or just bad luck, but does anyone else get extremely dry facial skin? Around my nose and up into my eyebrows, I have red flaky patches that I can't seem to get rid of. My usual moisturizer isn't helping like it used to. Has anyone found anything that works for this? Also really common, also could be a number of different things. So again, the hormones can change how our oil glands produce oil, can create dryness. It can change how our skin's barrier is intact. And that can create something we call transepidermal water loss, where we lose our own moisture just by existing. So that can be a factor in contributing to additional dryness. Um, it can also create some sensitivities in our skin that we weren't used to. And so sometimes people will start getting dermatitis or eczema type like patches or rashes on their skin because of all like this perfect storm of changes happening within their body. It could be that they are exposed to an ingredient that they all of a sudden developed a sensitivity to. I
Like me with
often,
the eyeshadow, where it's
yeah,
totally fine, and then one day it's just not. Yeah.
absolutely. And it can be a color, it can be a fragrance, it can be a number of different ingredients. I have some people that I send to work with allergists because we really need to pinpoint, and I have some clients who are doctors and they've had some of these issues. One had a scaly patch on her eyelid and we just couldn't figure it out. And she went into an allergist and it turned out she was allergic to the gloves she would use in her clinic. And so she just takes her own gloves to see her patients, and now she's fine. Another woman was a nurse, and she was reacting to the hand soap they used in the exam rooms, and so she had
God.
to. And
Yeah.
these are things that they used for years and years and years, like you with the eyeshadow. And I think did we say that your eyeshadow had like a purple coloring
Yeah, it
or a
was
plum
blue.
blue? Yeah. So certain dyes can be sensitive to people who are just sensitive in general. They can just create sensitivity.
Yeah.
But in midlife, when the hormones start changing and we can develop sensitivities, those are certain ingredients that are more likely to trigger a reaction. So again, play detective. Think what has gone on this area? What is here? Do I need to look at my ingredients? Do I need to have help with? Do I need somebody to look at my ingredients for me because I don't understand what any of these things mean? Um, what has been going on with my stress lately? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes stress can trigger rashy patches that are dry and flaky, dermatitis like. Some people develop yeast infections on the skin that look like scaly patches. There's a yeast called Malassezia. We all have it, and sometimes it gets out of control. So it could present as a dry, scaly patch, and in reality, it's yeast. And so having a dermatologist that you finding a dermatologist that you like early on, whether or not you use them consistently, but having somebody that you're like, okay, if I have an issue, I trust them and I'll go to
Mm-hmm.
them. That's important to in your like assembling your care team
Mm-hmm.
because skin issues like this do occur and it's a it's a guessing game. We're figuring it out. If it's not something you're using, if you're not having an allergic reaction, if it's not any of those types of things, and it's just the natural aging process, right? I again go back to we replenish we healthy skin starts within. So what's going on inside? Am I drinking tons of caffeine? Am I having too much alcohol? Am I
Yeah.
consuming things that are depleting me and dehydrating me? Am I drinking enough water? Do I need electrolytes? These are also important. Am I getting enough good fats in my diet, omega 3s, good essential fatty acids? Because if those are low, and we can test for those on labs, but if those are low, it can show up on the skin. So getting things dialed in right, that's key. And then topically, what will make it feel better? Looking at the products you're using. Are you using anything with alcohol? Any potential irritating ingredients? We got to get rid of those. And then, but we can use things that have hyaluronic acid, glycerin, certain soothing and calming ingredients. Certain people do really well with rosehip oil. Some people do not. Some people do really well with shea butter or different plant extracts, plant waxes. Um, I personally, I love a good glowy skin, and so I use a hydrating serum. I top it with a oil blend, and then I top that with a balm, and I've got my skin locked in, and that keeps any dry patches from flaring. And if I do get one, I I go with the thicker oils and the balms in order to calm and soothe those areas. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that even though we think of as our skin gets older, we lose our collagen, which so things, start shifting. We also don't have as rapid of cell turnover. So we don't make new skin cells as fast and get rid of old skin cells as fast. When we're young and our skin looks amazing, usually about once a month, we're cranking through those skin cells. And as we get older, that process slows down, and those old dead skin cells like to hang on for dear life and they just stick around too long. And so sometimes the flaking and the buildup is just that, it's a buildup. And we can do some mild exfoliation to
Yeah.
eliminate that before we then replenish the moisture. Lock it in with some oils or some balms to help seal it in. My preference, no matter the skin type, but especially in midlife, is to not scrub and rub, not like vigorous manual gritty exfoliation, because that can create little microscopic tears in the skin, make the skin more sensitive, cause more of that transepidermal water loss where we're losing more moisture, more water. I like to dissolve. So I'll do mini like I use mild acids, mild chemical peels where most of the time people don't even peel from it. It's just a acid type ingredient that will gently dissolve the glue that holds the dead skin to the surface, and then it washes the dead skin down the drain, and you don't even notice it. I like to do a dissolving rather than a scrubbing. I find that our skin as it's maturing does much better with that. I also really love certain enzymes because enzymes, they eat away like Pac-Man. They eat away at the dead skin cells, and that putting an enzyme on the skin can help eat away at the dead skin cells, and you rinse it off and you've got more of a fresh, clean slate. So then you go to use your moisturizers and they actually work better rather than just sitting on top of layers and layers and layers of dead skin that just doesn't need to be there anymore. Um, those are common things. Um, the question mentioned though that the dryness was in the around the nose and up into the eyebrows. And so when something's in that area, I also like to inquire about glasses and sunglasses Because a lot of people don't necessarily think to clean off their glasses or their sunglasses.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a
right.
common topic when I work with people who are struggling with blemishes and acne, but it really does apply to everyone. If, let's say, you've not wiped your glasses off in months, they could have they could be
Yeah.
contributing to like a yeasty type overgrowth that can create some scaling and whatnot. And so again, we're just looking at every little angle of things that is coming into contact with that, that's happening in our life around the time that it started, um, that that could potentially be something you can solve very easily and affordably.
Yeah.
There's a lot of free things that we can do when sometimes people think they need to go out and buy something new. And I'm like, oh, just wipe off your glasses or drink a little more water. But, I mean, there's more to it than that. But if we're not looking at the whole picture, sometimes we miss some things.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great point because that is exactly where my glasses are sitting right here, right? So if that's the culprit, then that's an easy fix. But yeah, of
Or
course.
if you were somebody who says, I do wipe them off all the time, and you still have it, I would look at what's in your makeup or what's in your wipes. So I remember working with a woman who she had or not makeup, glasses wipes in her purse, and we looked at them, and it was alcohol
Yeah,
and a fragrance, and so
yeah,
she was creating a little bit of chemical irritation every time. So she was so thorough with it, but it was something she was sensitive to.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, so that could very well be that as well. Um, I feel like there was another question that I overlooked, but about the hair loss.
Well, we can definitely talk about hair loss because I know there was a few different questions that asked specifically about, like that's one of the things that can come up, and it can also again seem really really sudden and very disturbing, especially if like for me, I already have naturally thin fine hair, so if I were to start losing, it would be noticeable very very quickly, and then again we're losing our sense of identity because now our regular hairstyles, we can't even do them anymore because of these, you know um, because of the hair loss, and especially frustrating for the women who have gone to the doctor and checked out and everything seems fine and there doesn't seem to be a cause for it, and then the doctor just says, well, there's nothing I can do for you because everything came up clear, so what can you do?
A lot. So a lot. Also, like being compassionate with ourselves because this is a big one. So in my area of expertise, I don't specifically treat hair loss, but I'm very, very familiar with it because I am in this region. And a lot of people talk to me about it, and I have studied a lot about hair loss, and I'm even contemplating getting like hair loss certification because it's such a big deal thing. It was a huge thing for me. I used to be a hair model. I have a lot of hair. I have a lot of hair. And but I've lost almost 30 to 50% of my hair at
Wow, so
different
you
times
really
in
noticed
my life.
that then, for sure.
I get it. I had bald patches so big in here, and so I get it. And it can be a lot of different things. So if it's in through here, it can absolutely be androgenic alopecia, so hormone related hair loss. It has to do with something called DHT, dihydroxytestosterone. So it's a hormone basically that's interfering with our hair follicles. And it's really important to sometimes just everyday doctors don't test all the things. And that can be really frustrating. So it can be the hormones. It can be nutrient deficiencies. So a lot of times people will say, my doctor said my labs are normal. And we look at their zinc, their ferritin, their vitamin D, and they're in normal range, but so far at the bottom end of the scale that while it's normal, it is not optimal. And if you
Yeah.
don't have optimal nutrients, you're not growing your hair. There's just not enough of the building blocks to feed and nourish the scalp. And so sometimes it's a matter of it could be normal, but is it optimal? And if the doctors aren't on board with getting things optimal, then it's on us to do our due diligence and learn on what is optimal and am I optimal and how do I get optimal and try and work with them to get you optimal. So it can be hormonal, it can be nutrient related. It can also be something called telogen effluvium, which is a stress related hair loss that is very confusing to people because it's not immediate. Um, Dermatologists and a profession called trichologists, they specialize in hair as well. These people can help with this and help diagnose this. Um, Telogen effluvium comes usually, it's noticeable 3 to 6 months after an illness or a really stressful event. So when I started losing my hair, it was 3 to 6 months in that range after having a really bad bout of COVID years ago. And when I tell you I had bald patches, if anybody wants my before and after pictures, I will show you. I had bald patches. And it's challenging when you start losing hair really rapidly and it's just gobs and gobs and
Oh
gobs
yeah.
because you don't necessarily pinpoint it to it's happening now. You don't necessarily pinpoint it to 6 months ago I was ill or 6 months ago I had a surgery. I also had a surgery and at another point it caused a lot of hair loss from that. I also had a really stressful event, as many of us do in our lives, and I had another bout of this hair loss after that, about 3 months after that, and it just kept coming and coming and coming. And me being the researcher that I am, I started, and this is a little gross, but I would save it and I would put it in a zip bag and I put the date and I was tracking, and I don't like not to save it forever because that's creepy and gross, but to save it for
Just for
research
information.
purposes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'd
So
be
you
like,
knew.
how much am I losing
Yeah.
and at what stage and at what date? And I could go back and I could pinpoint the gobs of hair was usually in that 3 to 6 month range
Wow.
after something really impactful happened in my life. So anytime somebody is concerned with like rapid hair shedding or just tons of it, we look internally, we look at our labs, we look at our nutrients, we look at our diets, we make sure we've got the building blocks so the blood as it comes to the scalp can feed and nourish. But we also, look at our lives and what have I been through? What's been going on? Could that be a factor? Because that's a huge, huge factor. And if it's hormonal, then we also, we can use topical, there's certain shampoos and serums and things that we can put on the scalp to keep that DHT from like killing off the follicles. We can also talk to our hormone provider about do we need to tweak any hormones we're using or doing to help with that. Um, and then be aware that certain top scalp treatments can create increased heart rate or affect blood pressure. And so we want to have a really well-rounded view of our plan to make sure that it fits our own unique individuality, that we're not going to be creating tachycardia and feel like we're having a heart attack because we're working on the hair stuff. It takes such a toll. Our hair is a big, huge part of our identity. And in the process of figuring it out, there's also hair loss specialists who make little like custom topper, like little pieces you can put around the hairline. They are virtually indetectable. There's hair, I'm going to show you here. I don't use it anymore, but I did. You can get hair makeup and I don't scalp makeup. And so I
Mm.
don't know if a lot of people know that you can get th these little puffy things. And so
They
if you're
just pick your
losing
spot. Yeah.
and you just come in here and you can pat in on the scalp. And so it doesn't bring your hair back, but it can help minimize the look of the thinning out as you're figuring it out. And that can be really helpful.
That would be really helpful, for some
Yeah.
of the gals that have been in the group where they're like, "Oh my God, I just don't look right at all anymore." And like, am I just gonna have to get a wig? You
Some
know,
do.
and
And there's
some
no
do.
shame in that. And there's no shame in that. Some do. I bought a wig. I never wore it. I bought a wig. It was very hard to match my hair, but I did. I bought one and it's sitting in the closet because I was so devastated by how am I going to show up without any hair? And so I get that. And there's no shame in getting a piece. There's no shame in getting what's some stem you can get stem cell injections to
Yeah.
regrow your hair. The earlier you do stuff like that, the better it works. So if you start to see hair loss and it's starting to concern you, that is the time to look into it because once the follicles die, you can't really bring them back. So we want to catch it early, but know that there are things you can do. Same thing with eyebrows. See a lot of women will, sometimes I send them to their doctor. I'm like, your eyebrows are starting to get a little thin here. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
time for a workup. And they'll come back and say their thyroid was off. So the hair pattern there or losing the eyelashes. I still do. I deal with an illness that is deeply affecting for me. And so I lost a lot of my eyelashes and they never grew back. So I use little eyelashes that I glue on. And there's a lot that we can do to help us
Yeah.
feel a little bit better while we're sorting out the internal type
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and I really appreciate what you're saying because I think part of why, women are so hard on themselves is that they're comparing themselves to someone who's, a celebrity, right? And oh, but they're just getting a quick interview, but you don't see that they did like a they had a makeup thing that was like 2 hours and three people working on them and six people getting their hair exactly right with the extensions and everything so that they would look a certain way. And yeah, we don't look like that. I noticed myself, I used to watch a soap opera and then I was paying attention. I was just, when I was working with my mindfulness, every time I watch the soap opera, I kind of feel bad about myself, about how I look. And I don't in general feel bad about how I look, but I was like, what is it? So I started to really pay attention and I was like, even when they're waking up from a nap in the hospital when they're sick, their hair is like perfect. And like, life isn't like that. Life is messy. And all of us need a little bit of help here and there. And I think you've just given us so much great stuff to work with, and it's been so wonderful to get to know you a little bit better and to have you come and help with this. And then so this will sit in the group and I'll put it into the School of Perimenopause on the Patreon too, so that it won't expire, because on Facebook it'll only be there for a while and then it'll expire. But then people might have other questions, and then I'll just direct them to you, and we can have this can inform you a little bit too as far as what you'll bring to the conference. Because we're doing this now and making it part of the group, there might be some questions that come up or some comments that make you go, oh, yeah, for sure, I definitely have to make sure that we address that as well.
Yeah.
And to know that people, celebrities, they show up with these dewy, perfect faces because they had a shave before they got there. You know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah.
we're not thinking that, and it's really, really good information to realize that we have a lot to work with, and we can work with what we've got and be happy about how we look, even while we're dealing with, the maze of perimenopause and coming into a better place. Do you have any final thoughts about anything you want to share?
It's a lot. It's a lot to experience. It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to feel. And we already live busy lives and we already have a lot going on. And if I feel like so many of us, we feel like we also now have to get to work on being our best researchers and our own best detectives and our own doctors and our own experimenters. And we're sorting through a lot of that. And so, you know, this is something I absolutely love. And the questions that like no question is too personal because head to toe, you name it, I've probably heard it. And there's a lot. Like I said,
Yeah.
I've counted 118 ways perimenopause and menopause can affect our appearance alone. That's none of the other stuff. And it can feel isolating and overwhelming and infuriating to so many women when they bump up against these things and they wonder, why did no one tell me this? And so, we don't necessarily all experience all of them, but to know we're not alone, and whether we choose to do anything about it, something minimal or something incredibly aggressive, without judgment, there's things we can do or not, and we're gonna be okay. And so I'm just so happy to have connected with you and the women in your world because this is a hard time. And to go it alone and to already have our own, so much that we're dealing with on our own, and to feel like, oh, now I've got to be an expert in X, Y, and Z and hair loss and skin. And this is what shows, right? We can usually hide our hot flashes. We can usually hide our dry, scaly skins. We can usually depending, we can usually hide that rage, right? Like we can tone it down and we can keep it contained, but this even though the way we look is the least important thing about ourselves and the least interesting thing about ourselves, it does impact how we show up in the world. It really does. And so if I can be of help to anyone, just whether it's a matter of accepting, understanding, feeling empowered to go into their doctor and say, what do I do about this? To know what to even ask. So many people don't know where to start.
Hmm.
I'm just so happy to have connected with you and to, lend my expertise in that area because there's a lot that a lot of people don't know, and I'm happy to share.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that's great about having access to information, but it's also too much because we can't be an expert in
Yeah.
every area. And that's why, I was so happy to connect with you because I'm sitting on this chapter and I've been kind of stuck. And it's almost done now. And I think once I dig through everything that you said, I'll be able to finish it. Well, and I have a hairdresser who's helping me too.
Good.
So with you two gals, I should be able to finish it. But why do we feel like we have to be the expert in everything? No one else ever thought they had to be the expert in anything. And what I'm doing is bringing in the people that I know can be helpful, picking and choosing the right people so that we can trust that the information they're handing us is solid and it's going to be right what we need to hear, and then letting the women have that dignity of making their own choice about how they want to proceed. And okay, so we'll just keep in touch because we're working away on the conference and things are coming together. We have 8 people confirmed now, so there's only 2 spots left. And I'm really, really happy with everything that's going along. And I will be in touch with you shortly with all this stuff to see what our next steps will be. And I appreciate you so much. So I'm going to end up hanging up on the call so that it disconnects with everything. It's a little bit abrupt, but thank you so much for coming today, Brianna. We had a great talk,
Thank
and
you.
I think we helped a lot of people already.
I love it. I appreciate you.
I
Have a good day.
appreciate you too.